brilliant. I mean, winning the Premier League, that's amazing. That's beautiful the way you told it. It's something that Ollie, Harry Kane, it's just something we'll never experience. But I was wondering from that with Blackburn winning the Premier League, I was wondering if that's still possible for smaller clubs. I mean, Leicester did it, and it sparked discussions. Is it harder to win big trophies like that or to sustain it? Because Blackburn, they then sold their best players. Same with Leicester. Mahrez left. And yeah, I was wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's there's different stages for anyone, and Guardiola talks about this openly, and I spoke to him back end of last season about this specific thing as they were sort of trying to keep that momentum going after they'd won 2 back-to-back leagues and trying to win it for a third time. Is how do you keep going and how do you reinvent yourself? I think for a club like Blackburn and a club like Leicester, you're absolutely right. They're smaller clubs and are less likely to repeat their successes. So the best players tend to get picked off. N'Golo Conte was another one, wasn't he, from Leicester? And there was a lot of players left Blackburn that sort of after that success in the following year, and including myself. I left, once I recovered from my injury, I left in 97. So it is very difficult to go again and recreate the success if you're a smaller club, because I think it relies on everyone peaking at the same time. And again, where Leicester and Blackburn maybe are comparable, and I don't like to compare them that often, but where they are comparable is that, some of those players were playing really above their ability, and they just kept going and they kept delivering and they had that wonderful spirit and that freedom where they didn't tighten up, they kept going and kept delivering. As I said, some of them, I think, higher performances than anyone would have expected. And we had a few of those players at Blackburn as well that were sort of considered sort of decent football players, but not necessarily ones that would win you the Premier League. And the difficulty is, once you've succeeded, you can't then get rid of players. You can't just say, well, look, actually, well done for winning the league, but you weren't good enough. And we didn't do that at Blackburn. We didn't sell maybe 4 or 5 players when we should have done and strengthen in those positions. And equally, Leicester were very loyal to a group of players that weren't going to be able to play at that level again. And then the disappointment when things start going wrong is disproportionately high. You really feel it, because you feel it slipping away, and so it becomes the tension and everything, the frustration, the anger. It all comes to the surface very quickly. It's the football equivalent of road rage.
No, I mean, it's kind of like this whole team spirit. Like you say, everyone comes together and there's this amazing performance. But that can only go on so long. And like you say, they could have maybe sold players, got better players. So I guess the only way really to keep that going, which is kind of unfair, unfortunately, is money. You see that with Newcastle. It's their first time in the Champions League now. And ultimately, there's better performances and stuff, but a lot of that will be just this huge amounts of investment. So I don't know what you think about that, whether it be like money caps or...
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, the first bit of that, the Newcastle situation, Eddie Howe, I think, is one of those very sensitive managers who doesn't just, even if he has a blank check or, an empty checkbook that he can buy whoever he wants, he's not that kind of guy. He gets the spirit in the group. I think the best managers generally do. I think they understand the group, and even Guardiola. One of the things I admire about him, and there are many things I admire about him, obviously, but he does understand the dynamic of the dressing room, and they've got a very deep squad, a very privileged group of players, but keeping those players happy and fresh and performance ready, so that when they do come on, they perform. That they react in a positive way. There's a real skill behind that. I think for Newcastle, I don't think they'll build out of sync. I think they'll be very bespoke around who they bring in and how they fit into the wider group. Because what Eddie did in a brilliant way was the spirit that he brought into that group, and he made all of those players better. Whether it's Almiron better, Dan Burns done really well, Cher's done well. Joe Linton probably is one of the best adaptations of a player from one coach to another. So, that's down to good coaching, good dressing room culture and good values. In terms of the caps and such like, I think football's going to have to change in the end, because you can't just keep pouring more and more money into the top expecting it to remain sustainable. So there's this hyperinflation around football at the top level. And I work with consult for a couple of clubs and sit on the board in Mallorca with Real Mallorca, who are in La Liga, but we've been, third division, second division, first, second, first, bouncing around. This is our third year in the first, which was the goal, was to try and, to build a base in the first division. But I've seen this inflation, even if it happens at the top, it affects everyone else, like the housing market. Once it starts going up, it just keeps going. And then, people are borrowing more to spend because they're trying to keep up with everyone else. And at some point, that's going to just blow up. It can't continue. But how you adjust to stop clubs spending, these sums is really difficult. And salary caps, I think, sometimes can punish teams that aren't not because they're not well run, but they just don't have either the investment or the turnover of bigger clubs. So that's one of the frustrations for me around the financial fair play model. It doesn't really reward you for running a well-run club. You just don't get punished for running a badly run club. So it's based on punitive action rather than reward. And it gets in the way of good investment sometimes. So if you can work out, that's your project, if you can work out how to create a financial model that works for everyone in football, then you'll do really well.
Yeah, there's such a mess everywhere, because Germany, for example, we've got the 50+1, which I love. But then Saudi Arabia have completely different FFP rules. And then you have Chelsea. I mean, you spoke about with Chelsea, this kind of keeping this balance between dynamics. But Chelsea now have spent 300 million in one transfer window. I was wondering what you thought about that with Bowley.
I think it's irresponsible. I really do, because the way they went about it as well. They must have upset so many other clubs in doing what they did and the way they did it, and it completely backfired. So not that it would have been responsible if it worked, but it's just not understanding the dynamics and coming in, with that sort of attitude, I think is poor. And in the end, it damaged the thing they were trying to fix way beyond what anything that they were prepared for. Because you can't put together a load of really talented players like that in the way that they did and expect performance, and too many distractions, too much of a bottleneck. So you see what they're doing now. They're going to clear out to an extent and try to change the culture, and that's tough because it's about people. It's not about money, and it's about values and creating a system that is authentic and genuine and not just transactional. And unfortunately, for me, Chelsea feel like just a transactional club. If you pay to be part of it, you can be part of it. And if you don't, then even if you've got a lot to bring, you're not you wouldn't get through the filter, if that makes sense. So there's no doubting the talent that they've got, and I think they've got a fantastic manager in Maurizio and his team. But they've got to take away all that noise. If they don't take away the noise, the problems are still going to be there.